Hello and welcome once again to the Windy City's finest on location in Grand Prairie at Studio 68. We're super excited to be here. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is...
My name's Hannah Nott, and I have a business called The Open Palette where I teach and create art.
I love that, and I love that you gave the brief description of it. That's perfect. And yeah, the purpose of this segment is to just kind of play some icebreaker games with you, get to know you a little bit, and then we'll learn about your artistic stuff a bit later. The first thing we usually do is a bit of trivia. How are you with trivia, typically?
I am the worst at trivia. My friends will tell you they never want me on their team.
I feel like I'm in the same boat as you, so we'll see how this goes. But anyway, my first piece of trivia for you, Hannah, is former professional and Olympic boxer William Theodore DeWitt of Grand Prairie, Alberta, won what medal at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics? Do you watch boxing at all? No? Okay, well...
But the answer is sports.
It's sports. But yes, which medal? A, bronze, B, silver, C, gold, or D, did not participate?
Trick question. I want to go with my instinct and say bronze.
Ooh, not quite. Good guess, but it was B, silver. Yeah, it's all good, all good. I'll throw it to you. Mac has prepared some secret trivia for me, and I do not know what these are. I don't have a very good streak with these typically. Whatever that means. We'll find out. What is the first piece of trivia?
The first one is the equivalent to Northwestern Polytechnic in the Windy City is Lethbridge Polytechnic. Mac's father taught students there in which program? A, carpentry, B, welding, C, electrical, or D, mechanics?
Oh my gosh. Prairie is considered to be at the heart of what region in Alberta? A, the oil region, B, the Swan region, C, the Peace region, or D, the Grand region?
Oh, well, we do like our swans, and we definitely do like the oil. I'll have to go with the Peace.
Yes, you got it. Did you know that?
Oh, I knew that.
It's like a pretty common knowledge here.
Yeah, it's very, we are the heart of the Peace.
Yes, I love it. Okie dokie. We will move swiftly along here. I'm just going to put this down to our next little icebreaker game with you, Hannah. So this or that, such as tea or coffee. I'm British, so I say tea, and if you say otherwise, then maybe we're enemies. But we'll see what we get. I'll let you do the honors, and you can read it out once you pick it.
Ooh, here we go. Text or call?
Text or call. I feel like I get a bit of anxiety around calling, but I love how fast and to the point it is. But also with texting, I appreciate just being able to like chat next. Let's do this one. 17, book or movie?
Ooh, I was a book nerd growing up. Yeah, I'd have to say book. Book is always better than the movie. Well, in context of cinema for sure.
Yeah.
But books in general, I definitely enjoy more.
Yeah. And you said you even growing up, that was always the case?
Yeah, so I liked reading fantasy books and stuff. And nowadays, I've been getting into the Stephen King collection. And so that's been really, really nice. And very thrilling because you get to kind of sit and let it stew versus like being rushed to watch through the story.
Yeah.
And definitely books.
Yeah, sounds like a bit of autonomy. You can do it at your audio book.
For me, so back in college when I was working in the studio, I would have an audiobook going on all the time. And of course, it was one of the Stephen King books or some other horror themed audiobook, and it was nice to be able to have that in the background and just kind of going through the story as I was working on this, multitasking as some creatives do. So that was definitely very, very nice way to pass the time.
Yeah, and kind of just have something going on in the background. Nice. I think for myself, I actually haven't tried that many audiobooks. I feel like I should, because I really struggle to like sit down, like take the time to sit down and read. So I should probably do that. That would be good for me to try.
It's really nice. I like it.
Interesting. Okie dokie. Let's see what else we get here. Let's do this one.
You get ready, you're at the door.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I do enjoy breakfast a lot more. So I get up, make my coffee, get lunches ready, get my breakfast going, sit down, have breakfast, catch up on like emails and stuff, social media posts, things like that. So I get to enjoy my morning just like that before I have to go start my day.
Nice. I love that. I love that. Awesome. I think that's a great note to move on to our next mini game, which is Tumbling Towers.
Ooh.
So each block corresponds to a lovely question that I have here. Quick rule recap. Can't take from the top 3 rows. Got to try put it back on top when you take it out. I'll let you do the honors and go first.
Okay, all right. I have my eyes on this one. Oh, maybe?
Maybe.
I guess not. Oh, 30.
There you go. That one looks like it's working for you. 34. That is...
It's like I could just listen to something and then, there, I know how to play it now.
Yeah.
Like...
Very cool. I think for myself, one talent I wish I had would just be like languages, like picking up languages. I think it would be super valuable, practical, and also just, cool to be able to understand the world in different languages,
Wouldn't that be wild if just like one morning you woke up and you understood like 3-5 different languages and just like, what happened?
I could listen to so many different audiobooks.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, my turn. This has only ever fallen once.
Oh.
And it was not my fault. It was Mac, and I have to bring it up every time. Number 8 is, what's the last picture that you took?
Last picture that I took? Oh, like on my camera roll?
Yeah.
Okay. It was a selfie getting this stuff ready.
That's amazing. I love that. Very recent. I think for me, we were in Grand Prairie and we went for a walk at Crystal Lake. And so, I took a picture of the lake. It was beautiful. Part of the scenery here. So, it was great. Awesome. I'll throw it back to you. Pick our next one.
Oh gosh, it's got to be on this side.
Yes. Ooh, nice.
There's a logic to it, maybe. I don't know. I just 54.
54, right at the end. What's one act of kindness we should all do more of?
That's an interesting one.
I can go first. I think.
Yeah, you go first. I want to see what you say.
Yeah, I think for myself, like I've been trying to practice a bit more gratitude, and I think that either saying thank you, like literally, or just like thinking it. I think could just be an act of kindness to yourself. Like I don't know, maybe you have breakfast one morning and you're like, thank you to myself for making that and sustaining me for the morning. That's kind of weird,
absolutely.
But
Yeah, because like you make your own perception, right? Like you create that world. That's awesome. Oh darn, that is a good one.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have gone first.
No, let's see. Act of kindness. So if act of kindness maybe towards other people, I would say compliment is like complimenting somebody on something or anything, or even just saying like a really, really nice, friendly and genuine hello and like hope you're having a wonderful day kind of thing. Because compliments can kind of go either way too, depending on how people receive it. But just being like that really nice, genuine, strong hello. Yeah, because I've had like tough days and then somebody did that for me and I'm just like, now my day's a little bit better. Yeah. So.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that. Hello. Awesome. I'll go next. I'll pick our next one. This one is calling to me. Let's do that. You got number 7.
Ooh,
Let me see if I can put it back on. Okay. I gotta flip the page here. Number 7 is, what are you reading right now? A lot of reading-oriented things. This is crazy.
Reading. Oh, gosh. I unfortunately haven't picked up a book in a very long time because I've been super busy with my life.
If you were to pick up
I were to pick up a book, oh, gosh.
Stephen King?
Actually, the last one I picked up was Stephen King, The Long Road, or The Long Walk. Now I forget the title, but it's one of those.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good book, and it's very suspenseful. And you get to be in the like one of the characters' minds and how they're thinking, and they're basically walking this really long road, and it's part of this. initiation into like a military type deal, and it is really, really strange and weird, and there's consequences for walking too slow. Not going to spoil anything, but the ending is very unresolved, and you don't know what actually happens.
Sometimes those are the best stories.
I love it.
That. I love that. For myself, what am I reading lately? This is a really good question. We know I'm not listening to any audiobooks. I am trying to read The Happiness of Pursuit. I forget the author's name. Mac lent it to me, and he's lent it to me a while ago, and I still have not started it. So we'll see how that goes.
It's a commitment.
It is,
sure.
yeah, it is. I'll throw it back to you to pick our next block.
Oh, no. Okay. Oh, there we go. Maybe.
You got it.
There we go. Perfect.
This is number 16. 16 is, who is someone who inspires you?
Ooh. I would have to say my mother. My mother inspires me every day. She's the toughest Polish woman you'll ever meet. She came over to Canada when she was 20, and she didn't know much of the language, and so she learned so much so fast, and she, it was a whole different world to her. Like, for example, just a quick little story time. So back in Poland, where she's from, the clothing, like new clothing, was behind locked doors.
Right.
But then when she came over to Canada, your department stores closed everywhere, everybody's touching it, right? And she was just absolutely horrified. Right. So it's definitely a huge culture shock, but she got through it and she adapted, and she's just been an amazing person in my life.
So that's amazing that you've had that. Yeah. And do you feel like you grew up here? Was there any like cultural things for yourself, like that you were raised with, but that, anything there or not really?
The very hardworking people, right? And so I was raised to be a very hardworking person and go for my goals, do or pursue what I want to pursue, and if I'm going to do something, do it with 100%. And so I've lived with that my entire life, and that's something I'll die with.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. And I know what, I might echo you there. My parents are immigrants here. We're from Britain, and just that hardworking, good ethic is a thing that I think they passed on to me.
I think it's a European thing.
Maybe. Awesome. We have time for a few more here. You picked that one, right?
Yes.
Awesome. I will pick at least one more. We'll see what we can get. We'll go near the bottom. It's kind of dangerous. Let's go with that. Let's do number 26. What's one thing that you can't live without?
Definitely not technology, because I didn't really grow up with technology so much. Well, I mean, the obvious answer is water and food, but
sure.
Other than that, I would have to pick a pencil and paper. Because if it wasn't for art, I'd go crazy.
Nice.
That's just me.
Love it. Awesome. One thing that you can't live without, yes, other than food and water, of course. Unless it's too simple to say, but like people, like community. I don't know, like just other people. Like
Good point.
I'm finding the value of that, I think, more as I grow up, of just like actual connection and people, and just how important that is.
Yeah, and humans, as a species, we're a tribal animal, right? So we need people. We need a social aspect of life.
Awesome. I think that is all the time we have for this segment. It has been wonderful getting to know you. This has been the Windy City's Finest on location in Grand Prairie at Studio 68. He's Mac. I'm Perry, and this is...
Welcome to the Windy City's Finest on location here in Grand Prairie at Studio 68. I'm Mac. He's Perry, and this is...
Nott at the Open Palette.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed your segment with Perry and learning a bit about you as a person and getting to know you a bit with some icebreakers, but we're here for the art. We want to talk about the arts, of course, right? I'm really, this section is more of looking about your artistic journey and kind of where you started and where you headed and where you are now, I guess. So I'm really curious to learn all about
It's
you.
a windy one.
Yeah, is it good? That is perfect. I love a windy road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I know you did kind of a brief description at the beginning of the first segment, but if you could summarize it, what is your art?
Well, my art is really, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you're-
more emotionally motivated artwork.
Yeah. And primarily illustrations, painting, right? Oil painting.
Oil paintings for sure. It's my first and one true love. That and watercolor. I can work with acrylic, but I just can't stand it. I'm sorry for all those acrylic painters out there. It's not for me.
I'm just curious, what don't you like about acrylic paint?
Oh gosh, it dries way too fast. I know people love it for that, but like for me, I like to work kind of more slow. I had to like learn by myself. So I never touched oil paint until university. And so there was a painting course there where they kind of went over the properties of oil paint, but then didn't actually teach you how to paint with it. So I spent hours and hours and hours looking up videos, looking up forums and stuff, and trying to figure out how to use it. And I think because of that, I fell in love with it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Together, and she taught me, and so that's where I kind of started, was drawing anime characters and fan art and my own characters and things like that in grade 3.
Grade 3, okay.
I remember the day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, tell me more about the day. I'm curious.
Oh, well, it was she had come to school or to class with this picture she had drawn from like a game or something. I fell in love with it. It's like, I want to be like you. I want to draw like you, right? So it's like, teach me. And so she would teach me.
Teaching? Okay, yeah. And then kind of how did the...
Like 6 houses. And so there, aside from going out into the woods till dark, I draw, right? Draw or play with my toys or whatever, make believe and, play in the woods. So that's really how drawing became, or art became, part of my life. I would create things out of my imagination because that's what I had, right? So.
No, it sounds like a lovely charm. Yeah, what was that like drawing or painting, things like that? Like, were you eventually sharing that with people in the community?
Ooh, okay. So there was one year where I wanted to do a lot of writing. And so making this like little newsletter that I would make up every week for every Sunday. Gosh, how old was I? I think I was in like grade 5. This little tiny community and be able to create something for people.
That sounds lovely. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I guess, I don't know, was there anything else like within that time in that community living there that kind of influenced your artistic journey?
Ooh, yeah. Well, aside from like having nothing else there but my own imagination, I guess that really influenced it because I was forced to imagine things or to create things out of thin air or create things from my dream. I think was really, really helpful. Yeah.
No, for sure, yeah. And I guess, hopefully not fast forwarding too much, but I guess what came next in your artistic journey?
Oh gosh, okay.
Yeah.
So, well, through high school. So in high school, I ended up moving to Nova Scotia. And in Nova Scotia, there's a lot of old buildings. So I started drawing old buildings there during high school, and that was pretty popular. And then, I just kind of continued it as a hobby. In high school, there really wasn't an art or music program, so I couldn't really, or like classes for that matter. So it was a high school from grade 7 on.
And how did you figure it out?
Oh, it's a big, long story. How did I figure that out? So, where do we want to begin?
Well, I know that you eventually went to Memorial University. Is that kind of is that too far in the timeline? Or?
Well, okay, so high school, did that. I knew I wanted to do something with art. My parents are both teachers, so of course, naturally, they want me to have job security. It's like, there's never enough teachers, right? And so they would bug me about, going to teaching school or going to sciences. I was also really good at science, which is also a conundrum with me. I was really good at art and really good at sciences and like math. So usually you don't see those two kind of in the same person, but I was really good with that. And so they were really I don't want to say pushy, but they really encouraged it because my dad's really sciencey and my mom's, wants the best life for me, of course. And so they wanted me to be a teacher and get this. I was like, no, I want to do something with art. It has to be, it's been part of my entire life. And so looking at art schools, one of the two top, I was kind of miffed about it. So when I applied to it, it's like, okay, I want to go and learn art, right? So it's like, you guys are going to teach me. And so you had to hand in a portfolio with the application. And so they get you to do like a list of things, like a still life, a picture with something or other to show how you shade or render things. So I did that, and then of course they rejected me, and then they showed a example of an accepted portfolio, and like the thing was like photorealistic, and I'm like, this person doesn't need to go to art school. Like, they already know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to learn how to, right? So it's like, okay, well, that's not the... Yeah, so my experience at MUN was kind of a mixed bag. So of course there's a social aspect, and of course there's the academic aspect. And social was very, very much high school drama still, right? So you're a freshman, you're just fresh out of high school, you're still like really young, and you're not quite all there to learn. You want to go out and party, right? So did have quite the party life. Not super crazy, don't worry, Mom. It wasn't crazy at all. But, you know, late nights and going out to the bars and whatever and hanging out with friends. And there's a lot to this medium, but not teach you how to use it. So I was kind of like, I don't really like that. Like, I was in the same class of like people who, bless his heart, but would almost look like they finger painted, right? So it's like, for me, I'm very technical. I like to create things with skill. And of course, everything's up to interpretation. Not my cup of tea, but yeah, so I was kind of really not impressed with that at the time, where that person was also passing with me, right? And so that got me off on the wrong foot. And so I ended up actually dropping out, right? And dropped out of school because I was like, you know what, we're just going to go and work and whatnot. And then I just really didn't do much art for a few years after that.
And what was that like, that, you know, dropping out of school and not doing art?
It was terrible, absolutely terrible. Don't do that. If you know you're an artist at heart, do not stop. Like, no matter what, because it was the worst couple of years of my life. Like, just working and then drinking on the weekends and going back to work and then drinking on the weekends and just this whole cycle, and it was just over and over and over. It's just like, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah. And then I guess, yeah, what changed that got you back into art?
Ooh, that would be my mother again. So, so I think this was in 2017. My mother made me a deal. She's like, you go back to school, get your degree, get that little piece of paper, and I'll take you a trip to Poland. And so, because her family's over there, right? So I never really got to meet that side of the family at that point. And so I was like, deal. I want to go to Europe. I want to see that part of the world. Let's go. So I ended up moving back to Newfoundland and getting my degree and getting that piece of paper. And I was like, yeah, so going back actually a few years later. So I had left MUN the first time 2013, or things that we wanted to incorporate into an art project, and we just kind of created something, right? So that was kind of nice. And yeah, so that really got me back into it. Just going back and creating things just for however I wanted to, right? And yeah, so yeah, I got back into that. And so once I got that degree, my mom took us the family trip to Poland. And so we went to Krakow. It's the second largest city in Poland, I believe, and very, very historical. Lots of architecture, beautiful churches, the art galleries, the museums. My uncles took me out to a art gallery. It was for an artist, Beksinski. So he is like a horror nightmare artist, and he's like super famous for like creating these very dreamlike monsters and just like horrific scenes with like skeletons in the walls, and it's wild. Look it up at your own discretion, but it's that was inspiring to me because I loved it. And this gallery was all pitch dark. Everything was blacked out except for the spotlights on all the paintings. And it just made them glow. And like they had these beautiful colors, and of course it's oil paint, right? And so that was just so inspiring. I spent like 2 or 3 hours in that gallery, and it was the best experience. I'm like, this is the life. Like, I want to do this, and I just want art to be part of my life, and just to live it and breathe it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. That's amazing, and especially because there's that family connection as well, going back home and or going to a place that is your heritage and connecting with that. And,
yeah, and that was a whole other thing too. And it was really neat to be able to like go back there where I've never been, but my genes are from there, so you know, there's that.
yeah. And that your mother was from.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
nice.
lovely. Yeah, I've been really interested to maybe check that artist out.
Yeah.
And I guess so you've graduated, you go back to you go to Poland, you're inspired. What happened next in your artist journey?
Yeah, so at that point, I wanted to make art basically my life. And so I was like, okay, how do I do this? At that point, I was doing a lot of, I don't want to call it self-help, but like studying Stoicism and like creating an intentional life. There's a book called Essentialism, and I absolutely love it, recommend it to everybody. And so I was trying to implement that into my life. So I only wanted to bring into my life what I actually enjoyed. And so when I came back here to Grand Prairie, it was 2018, and I was like, okay, where is a easy job that I can get into that is art related in Grand Prairie? Michael's Arts and Crafts. So I applied and got a job there, and that's how I started meeting people in the arts community here. And it was really nice to be able to help people and learn things from the customers that would come in, because they'd be working on projects and they would introduce me to like new mediums or like new things that were going on and trending. For example, acrylic pouring or paint pouring or flow painting. I had no idea what that was. So I started looking into it, researching it a bunch, and then I got obsessed with it for like 3 months. So I had all these paintings that were just like these pour medium fluid art, I think it's called too. There's a bunch of different names for it. But so I ended up working there for a while. Then I got into the framing department, so picture framing, putting things together. That was really cool because I got to problem solve with every customer or client that came in with pictures or some sort of 3D maybe thing to put into a shadow box. You always had to problem solve it, and everything was different, so you had to like be creative. So I really liked that because it was always different. So I ended up just like everything that I wanted to do, or everything that I did, I wanted to make sure that it followed this like North Star. So my North Star is creating a life where art is involved in everything. And so one decision leads to another, and then I meet people and they introduce me to other things and other people, and it's kind of like an interesting butterfly effect that you create yourself.
Yeah, it sounds like you had that intention, like you mentioned, that that's what you wanted to do, and you're working towards it and working hard. I guess were there any kind of like challenges along the way that you faced, like let's say out here, once you're out here? What actually, you said you came back to Grand Prairie.
Yeah.
What brought you to Grand Prairie?
In the first place?
Yeah.
So in the first place, when I started dating the Newfoundland boy back in 2013, it was the only place that either of us had been outside of Eastern Canada, because he had worked out here previously in Fort Nelson. And he would come to Grand Prairie to visit and whatnot. And so it's like, oh, well, I've been to Grand Prairie. That's the only other place we've been. So I was like, okay, cool, let's go there. That was literally the only reason we came out here. And I've been here ever since, so.
Yeah, and I find that interesting because you were here the first time and you're like, oh, there's no art here. I need art. I want to go somewhere else. And now you come back and your life is art and you're making it work. Yeah. I guess my original question, if you face any sort of, challenges within yourself or otherwise?
The most challenging thing, just like in general, leading this life, is the slow burn. So it's taken me since, 2018. Gosh, how long is that? 7 years? Yeah, about 7 years to build up what I've got to now, right? So like when I first came to Grand Prairie, again, the art scene, it's almost like it's hidden in plain sight, right? And so I didn't realize there was really anything here besides like the provincial gallery. And so I was like, okay, well, originally I thought, because I thought, it's just an oil field town, whatever, right? There's no creative scene here, nah. But yeah, no, so that was very challenging because it's such a slow burn and you're building up these networks, the connections, talking to people, you know, just kind of getting in there, getting your name known, I suppose. And it's, a lot of people don't have the patience for it. And that's very challenging to learn is patience. I'm very terrible with patience. My friends will tell you. And yeah, so I think that was probably the most challenging part about the whole journey was the patience.
Okay, yeah, tell me more about that. So do you have maybe an example of like, yeah, it takes patience. Is that kind of like setbacks? Is that trying to like get into certain scenes or what's?
Yeah,
what does that
so
take?
like basically going to events or even like markets and not seeing like a lot of success or people reaching out to you to create paintings or portraits or anything like that, and just like not feeling like you're doing the work you're supposed to sometimes. So there's a lot of ebb and flow to it. It's like some months there'll be like, you know, endless people being like, hey, I want you to do this for me, or I want you to do that, or come out here to do this event. And other months there'll be nothing, right? So it's just kind of part of the lifestyle where it just kind of goes up and then down and then settles and then up and then down and settles and back and forth, right? So you kind of have to go with the flow.
And were you able to kind of figure that out early on, or did it take a while to?
I knew it early on, but I didn't want to accept it. It's like if I'm not doing really great now, then I'll never do great. I had that kind of mindset, especially towards learning too. It's just like if I can't do it now and do it great within the first couple tries, then I give up. And I was like, no, I got to be persistent. I got to keep at it. I got to be patient with it and myself, most importantly, and just trust the process. That was the most challenging part.
Yeah. And over that 7 years, was there a point where that kind of started to shift, or maybe there was more ups than downs possibly?
In the last couple of years, actually, when I started putting a lot more effort and time into advertising myself. That's one of the things a lot of artists don't do, is they don't like to talk about themselves. And I was a really shy person. And if you met me 5 years ago, let's say, completely done before and see what happens, right? So.
Yeah, it sounds like you had built that up over time. Yeah. So was there a bit of that comes to mind as maybe like imposter syndrome possibly, or maybe, or?
Yeah, it's a type of imposter syndrome, I believe, but it's more of the anxiety part that was challenging for myself. But like now it's definitely an imposter syndrome going on, because it's like, okay, so things are going well. When is the shoe gonna drop? Like, is this for real? Like, when's the crash gonna happen? It's just like, well, I determine that. I determine if there's gonna be a crash or not, right? I determine my own destiny. So it's like, I'm just gonna go with it, see where it takes me, and just like life has a funny way of just guiding you through things, opening doors, closing windows, things like that. So it's like, I just gotta trust it. I gotta trust the process. Same thing with painting. You gotta trust it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, and I'm really interested in that change, and especially you're pursuing, you want to do art, you want to make that your life, your career, you might say. Yeah, that idea of, you're determined and you're going to make it happen. And what comes to mind is like, yeah, you mentioned promoting yourself, and like, I guess maybe let's talk a bit more about that, about like maybe not really specifics, but I think of like a lot of artists might feel like they need to be on social media, or they need to be doing certain things. Were there certain things that you thought I need to be doing that maybe didn't quite fit with you, maybe?
Right. Yeah. So actually, that's a very, very good point. Social media was a huge anxiety inducer, because so the algorithm gods, you have to be posting like 3 times a day, all the time, every day, or however it is now. I don't know, it changes every week, right? So yeah, so I ended up trying to do the whole social media thing, trying to like put my stuff out there, but it just doesn't work for artists. So I find that in person, talking to people, going to events is a lot more rewarding versus trying to, appeal to the mass technology gods of Instagram or Facebook. I do use Facebook a lot because it's very much connected in the community here. A lot of people use Facebook for local events and stuff. So I definitely focus more on Facebook than anything else. And yeah, so I kind of ended up backing away from social media because that was just too much pressure. And artists don't work like that. They need to like take their time, you know, be in the space, the mindset to create things. And the, you know, Instagram and these social medias, they just want all the things all the time, you know, very quick videos like TikTok and stuff, right? So it's like, it doesn't really jive with the creative process, I find. And the long, what's it called? Long style format, like YouTube videos and tutorials and things like that is much more geared towards artistic, like the process. You can show the process, you can explain it, talk about it, things like that. So I tried doing that for a year or two, and then I couldn't be bothered to record things all the time because I'd forget, because I'm in the zone, I'm in the flow, I'm painting, I'm doing my own thing. I don't even remember to hit record. So, so for me now, I find going out and doing events, talking to people in person is a lot more beneficial.
Yeah, it seems like the word that really stood out for me was something effective, like being more rewarding and connecting with people.
Yeah, and like I said earlier too in the icebreakers, humans are tribal. We need the social aspect of things, and ever since COVID, I think a lot of people lost that. And so getting back into it is very, very rewarding. And I love talking to people and hearing their stories and like what their thoughts are, and even their critiques of like my work. And so I've also learned to not take things personally, especially when they're like, oh, I don't like that because of this, this, and that. And yeah, so I ended up learning to not take things personally, but taking the little, you know, grains of knowledge that they did share with me, and then doing whatever I need to with it, either proving or trying something new, or whatever I needed to.
That's great. Yeah, and I really like that. You know, you mentioned that before you were maybe, we'll say, less extroverted, or you know, you were kind of pushing yourself, and then how you've changed. Like, that's really great. Yeah, we're almost out of time for our segment, but we can maybe get a bit more of your journey in. So, you know, we're kind of in that last 7 years or so.
Yeah.
I guess kind of what happened next, where there was kind of a shift. I know there's like Open Palette Studios. I know you're doing teaching. Yeah, what kind of came next?
Okay, so after I, you know, very intentional with my decisions and everything, I ended up wanting to create my own business and like really get into that part or that aspect of it. So it took me 3 days straight to come up with this name. So previously I had been going under like a tag or a name called, from concept to fine art was like my tag name. And it was too long to create as a business name because it didn't roll off the tongue. Like from concept to art, the studio, like how does it doesn't really fit. So I spent days and days like, you know, using AI ChatGPT, be like, hey, give me some ideas to kind of start off with, and like it didn't help whatsoever. And so I just started looking for things that were similar, and I ended up coming across Open Palette, and it's a painting technique which also describes my from concept to art, which is like from start to finish, where you kind of pivot and you kind of go off on your path that you think you're going to go to, right? You just kind of take all these detours when creating. And so the open palette technique is you've got your standard colors, and you just create the colors as you need them. So as you're painting, oh, maybe I want to make this a little bit more greener, so you add a little bit more green as you go. So that's kind of the take as well that I take with teaching. So like if students become curious about something, we'll kind of shift our focus. And so I really love that I came across this this term, and so I ended up doing that. And now I teach and I create custom artworks and do my own artwork, and I just create from the bottom of my heart.
That's lovely. Yeah, we got through the whole journey.
Yeah.
Right, up to the present day. Great. That's amazing. I'm really excited to learn more about that in the next segment, about that open palette thing, probably. And just the last question we asked people, we switched up a little bit for this trip, but like, how has your art or your artistic practice changed your everyday life?
That's a good one. Changed my everyday life. I tend to look at the little things in life now. You know, instead of focusing on the big goals and, you know, going for the big achievements, you just want to sit back and just take in life. And like the little things every day, the morning sun with your cup of coffee. Oh, maybe it's a little bit too sweet this morning, but you kind of like that. So you just enjoy it and just paying attention to small things in life, or, you know, what a friend does for you that day, or maybe how they talk to you or just interact with you. You really cherish that because, you know, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? Nobody has a hold on it. So just to enjoy the everyday.
Yeah, some gratitude maybe.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
That's a simple way to put it, yep.
Yeah. Great. I think that's a great note to end on. Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation and learning about your art. And that's all the time we have for this segment. This has been the Windy City's Finest on location in Grand Prairie at Studio 68. I'm Mac, he's Perry, and this is
Hannah.
Hello and welcome once again to the Windy City's Finest on location in Grand Prairie here at Studio 68. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is
Hannah, the open palette.
Yes, which we have right here. I thoroughly enjoyed your conversation with Mac in the last segment, and I'm super excited to dive into some of your pieces and all the things that come with them. But first, I really wanted to start with just, like the title. I know you alluded to a lot of thought went into it, the design, and what really caught my eye, or maybe where we'll start, is just that idea of like community and the things that you offer and do. So what can you tell me about paint nights, workshops, and custom portraits? Yeah.
So I've been really getting into portraits, either of people or pets, animals, and things like that. And that's really connected to me with people's stories. And I find it so intriguing of, you know, how they treat their pets as their family, like I did growing up. So I had this little black lab. She was my love and light, and we would go on adventures together. So I really relate to how a lot of people love their pets, and I wanted to. It's my sort of way of giving back with my talent, where they can get portraits of their animals or their family members.
Picking up on that idea of community and maybe that shift that you had talked to in the last segment of like quality time in person and placing a higher value on that and intention towards that. Is that part of that decision? Like,
So I kind of strayed away from doing videos or YouTube or social media, things like that, and doing it. Otherwise, like, okay, let's change it a little bit, kind of guiding them to kind of what they want to do. And it's so much better in person. It is.
Has that always been a thing for you, like reading people's body language? And
it's so much more beneficial than on a computer screen. Like, who wants that? And the feedback too, especially in like lessons, the instant feedback and showing like, oh, like I see you're doing it this way, let's try a different way. You may be starting at one point and you want to go over here, but as you're going, you get sidetracked or something happens or something comes up and you have to completely detour and it ends up being something else. You never know where you're going to end up. Totally. And so I've just learned to embrace.
Were any of those open palette style? Is that a valid question?
Yeah, so actually probably this one here. Yeah. So generally I do like starting with a grayscale painting and then adding what's called a glaze, which is a transparent layer of color on top to create the color of the thing. But with this one, I started with a very kind of cool, cold gray, and I kind of liked it because it's lifeless, but then I added a little bit of rosiness to the skin with the glazing as well. So I ended up going a little bit more gray, or I started with a gray, and then I added a little bit of blue to it to kind of create this contrast between warm and cold. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna add a little bit of this, see what happens. And so I ended up adding a little bit more of the warm color to the cheeks and the lips and everything. And I was like, okay, well, this is working, right? So it just kind of happened in a little bit more of a shorter time than, let's say, a big old scenery or a animal portrait as well, where I kind of add a lot more colors are going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious about that.
The longer pieces, I do take a lot more time doing more of concentrate on the value, the lights and the darks before I add color to it. So the most important part of creating art or anything is the values, the contrasts, very, very important fundamentals. You need to learn the rules to break them.
Yes, I love it. Yeah.
So generally, if I'm working on a long-term project, it'll be very much in layers. Like I'll do blocking, so the major areas of, let's say, the outline or the silhouette of the face and the neck, I would block in and then start adding in shadows to kind of create the contours of the face, and then slowly add highlights. So with oil paint, or any paint really, except for watercolor, that's the exception, you start with the darks, then you go to the lights. Because if you're trying to go from light to dark, the contrast, the way that our eyes perceive it gets messed up a little bit. And so things either end up a little bit too light or a little bit too dark at the end, and then you have to fix the entire thing, right? So it's just like, just save you the headache. When you're painting with acrylics or oils, start with the darks, then the lights.
I love that. The other thing I'm picking up in this piece is like that idea of like realism, like that detail is crazy. And like that idea of realism, but also a bit of abstract. Is that, again, a typical thing for you, or what was that process like for this piece?
So there's actually, coming back to Instagram, there's an artist that I follow called Mad Charcoal, amazing portrait artist. And so he takes like abstracted charcoal strokes and just kind of makes a mess of it and then creates a portrait out of it. It's like I kind of wanted to emulate that in a way, but with oil paint. So for the story behind this one, it was for an exhibition. So I'm part of a guild of artists here in Grand Prairie, and so we were doing a exhibition titled Expressions. And that, my university brain's like, okay, I got to take this, deconstruct it, and then reinvent it. So I took that as like, okay, what makes expressions in the human person? The face. Okay, what about the face? The eyes. So what if I take away the eyes? And so I just ended up creating a portrait with the eyes scratched out. And so for whoever sees this piece of artwork or whoever I show it to, I always ask them, what's the emotion that you see? So what do you see?
Oh my goodness gracious me. What emotion do I see?
What comes to mind? What's the first thing?
First what is coming to mind is like solemn. I feel like with the absence of the eyes, like I'm drawn towards the mouth, and then it's slightly open, and then it's like this rested, but like that's what's coming to mind for me.
Right.
I don't know.
It's so interesting. So I've got the whole range. I've had triumph. I've had determination. I've had sadness, grief, troubled mind, right? So I've had the whole range from all the people that I've asked. And so I've heard it before too, where people will kind of project onto things, right? And so because it's a person mentioned before that I'm really inspired by, from Poland, he never titled his work because he knew that people created their own stories and their own interpretations. So he left that blank for people to fill in.
Right on. I do want to get to the other pieces,
yes,
but the
of
last
course.
thing, the thing I do want to appreciate also is the framing and how intentional that seems, because it's what stands out to me as well. So what can you tell me about, the framing and the process behind that?
Yeah, so framing it, I know I didn't want it kind of cliche frame. It is on a piece of canvas paper, so I wanted to elevate it a little bit. So I've got it stood off on just a matte board, kind of a shiny matte board inside of a matte black frame. And I wanted to cut it in a way that made it not just a rectangle and more of like a mirror. And like some mirrors, the fancy mirrors are kind of this kind of jewel kind of thing. So that's where that came from.
I love that. I love it. Let's move on to our next piece over here. What can you tell me about it?
Well, if you don't know what that's about, I don't know what to tell you. So I worked retail my entire life, and I was a very, people pleaser. I wanted to go the extra mile for my customers. I was all about that, right? I was the hardest working person, cared about everything and everybody. Didn't care if you were, Karen down the street or, Blow Joe or whatever, right? I wanted to make your shopping experience great. And then COVID happened. And as I'm sure lots of people know, the ugliest out of everybody started to show. I mean, everybody's under stress constantly, and retail was nuts. Right? So just day in, day out, just dealing with like being berated basically all
Sure.
day, every day, right? So I can really relate to all the horror stories that we hear or heard. So this one came after an experience that was my breaking point, essentially. So there was one day where so it was myself and my manager at the store, and we were doing online orders. So we were doing pickups at the time. It was in the evening, almost time to go home, really want to get out of there. And this one lady there was a piece of felt that was labeled gold. It was gold. It was a gold color, whatever, but it wasn't like shiny gold. And she was really upset about that. And she started yelling and all this and wanted to get returned right now and there and then, wanted to go pick up a different color. And I'm just like, hold on, I've got like 6 other people waiting to pick up their orders. You have to wait to return it. Because this was just, I think, just starting a few months into COVID and the lockdown and everything. And she just berating me, and then she went into her car, and this gentleman came up, it's like, you're okay? Like, this is not cool. He went to go and talk to the lady, opened her car door, and started yelling at her. I was like, you apologize to this lady? Like, it was weird. It was like a YouTube in real life. You see these crazy videos of these people acting crazy. Like, it was happening in front of me, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I just tried to help the other customers and stuff. And here I'm internally day, and it was the breaking point for me. And I just I can't do this anymore.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where that came from.
Wow. Yeah. And what it brings to mind, 2 things that it brings to mind, if I can remember them both. The first one was just that idea of you think you're going on a certain path day to day. You think your day is going to look a certain way, and it takes a detour, and you're just kind of taken along the ride. And then the other thing, in a previous segment, you mentioned art as kind of a source of therapy in some ways. And so I'm just curious what you could, it sounds like there was a bit of therapy in this, of just getting that expression, that moment, capturing it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I tend to want to get my fears and my apprehensions out of me onto canvas. Yeah. Other people have other outlets like sports, gym. I have my art. So the emotions that I was feeling, I put into the canvas. I was knee deep into them as I paint. I'm into these emotions. And so getting it onto something outside of me relieves me of it.
Love that.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. We don't have as much time for this as I would love, but I do want to feature it. So I'm going to pass this over to you for a second. We're going to maneuver this in here.
I just talk too much.
No, not at all. Not at all. Okay, let's place that down. Hopefully that is good. Awesome. Great. What can you tell me about this piece?
Oh boy. Okay, so I'll tell you a little fun story about it. So I created over a period of a year. There was this YouTube channel called Unis Honest, and it was an experiment of a couple famous YouTubers, Markiplier and Crank Gameplays, if anybody knows them. So it was this 1-year project where every day they did something new, and at the end of the year, they would delete everything, evidence of everything. So it really punches home the impermanence of life and just enjoying the everyday and just, try something new. Don't be afraid of it. Don't let the fear stop you, because on the other side of fear is the greatest thing in your life.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I really took to heart from that. And so it took me a year to actually paint it. I finished painting it on the last day of that experiment that they were doing. And then a year later, exactly a year on the day, it fell off the wall.
What?
I thought it was super spooky.
Yeah, wow. Oh my God.
But yeah, it was actually inspired kind of by the style of Bakshchinsky. He does have a similar kind of pose with one of his creatures that's holding a skull itself of like a friend or another part of their species. So I really liked that pose where it was like this kind of almost thinking philosopher, but like grieving at the same time, but very thoughtful. And so this is called the Keeper of the Glass. And so this person is holding the sand glass of time. And they are waiting for you as the ticking of the clock goes by.
I love it. And like one thing that I'm just curious about, because we mentioned it earlier, is just that idea of starting darker and working to light. Is there anything you can share about that with this piece specifically, that process? Or?
Yeah, the process. So this looked really ugly in about 3/4 of the process.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? Like there was nothing refined. This was all very blocky. The mountains were just one color, and then I started segmenting it into different values or brightness or darkness. And then I ended up kind of framing it with this black here at the very end that kind of follows the spiral pattern. Spirals are also a very reoccurring theme with this project.
Yeah.
And and then just taking like blocks of, like this was a really dark block of shadow, and so I just went into the shadow with lighter shadows and started creating like the rocks inside of this block, and then just kind of refining it little by little by little every day, or whenever I could sit down for a couple hours and just build it out. And then the figure I actually did over a couple times because I wasn't happy with it, so it was nice to, with oil paint or acrylics, you can just paint on top of it and kind of start fresh in a way.
There's so many more questions that I could ask, but I think we're really close to our time here. So really quick, like where could people find more of your work? And
so everything I do or have really done, openpalette.ca, super